Okie doke. And we're back. We are back in the studio. It's Stained Soul coming at you once again. The dishes were not done. We still have a little left over. So we're thinking, let's do another one. Why not? Besides, this one is so good. We see the title here. It's Paul the Pessimist. You know this is about to be another banger. So, yeah, covered all my bases. Welcome back. It's Stained Soul. It's nice to see you guys so soon. Um, let's get rocking and rolling, you know? Oh, by the way, this is from Unsearchable Riches, Volume 2. And again, this is Paul the Pessimist. Also, we do not know, apparently, who this was written by. So there's also that. All right. If anyone knows, please feel free to type it in the chat if you're here or comment it down below after the fact. But yeah, let's get rocking and rolling like I mentioned. Paul the Pessimist. All right. To be a pessimist in this age concerning the things of the world is equivalent to being looked upon as was one of God. Oh, wait. Sorry. As was one of God's servants in olden time, of whom it was said, I hate him, for he doth not prophesy good concerning me, but evil. 1 Kings 22:8. And of whom the apostate king spake when he commanded, Put this fellow in the prison and feed him with bread of affliction. 1 Kings 22:27. Pauline doctrine in respect to the last days is intensely pessimistic. He has no word of praise for the gigantic achievements of modern intellect, no intimation of his having the slightest hope because of the attainments in mechanical art of the present age. His teaching concerning man and his relation to things mental, political, moral, or ecclesiastical may be summed up in his words to Timothy. This know, that in the last days perilous times shall come. How completely Paul was outside the currents of modern life and thought may be gathered from a corn? Does that say corn? Oh no, sorry, comparison. Right. May be gathered from a comparison of his words just quoted with the words of those representative of present day affairs. The leaders in 20th century philosophy and 20th century theology unite in pronouncing the present era to be a glorious age. Thus, their judgment is a decided negative to the declaration of the apostle. Who, then, is right? The answer is to be found in the records of human history. But to which page in the register shall we turn? Let us find in Scripture an indication of the method which will lead us most quickly to the result desired. Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries? Either a vine figs? James 3:12. The thought of James is this: as the root, so shall the fruit be. With this in mind, we proceed at once to the root of human history and turn to the beginning of things to learn the moral value of these same things in their end. If the fountain be bitter, its waters cannot, of necessity, be sweet. If the seed sown be thistle, of it we cannot gather the fragrant blossoms of the rose. We would here ask the reader to carefully peruse the record of man's doings, found in Genesis. That's 4, correct? IV is 4 because V is 5. Found in Genesis 4. Hopefully that's 4. The record is not embellished in any way. The words chosen are few and simple. The writer's feelings are not once seen. Hence, the account given is ideally historic. Now, what we learn from history is this: that the present achievements of man, the modern attainments of his science, the latest products of his art, all had their origin in that portion of the race which started out with its back towards God. Oh, wow. its face towards destruction, and which ultimately was wiped off the face of the earth in the waters of the deluge. Here we learn that the first poet was a bigamist, and the first song that ever came from the lips of man was a praise of murder and of crime. Wow. Wow. And honestly, it's no different today. Like, that's all that rap music is murder and crime. Wow. The foundations of the first city were laid by an architect whose hands were crimsoned by his brother's gore. Wow. The pessimist we were about to write, the Paul of such an age of progress, was found in an Enoch. We read of him that, notwithstanding the artifices in brass and iron, or the sweet strains of skilled musicians, or the adept poets of his day, he prophesied thus: "Behold, the Lord cometh. He who walked with God, knew God's thoughts of the advanced science of his times, estimated it in the light of sanctuary values, and pronounced judgment upon the whole." In the account of the antediluvian age, we read of culture, science, invention, art, and progress, but not of God. Hence, in these last days, history is but repeating itself. Wow, yeah. Man has quarried the rocks and read the records of prehistoric worlds and boasts of the greatness of his geology. He harnessed the powers of nature to his chariot and prates of his inventive genius. He sweeps the heaven with his eye, numbers the stars, weighs the planets, and ends by saying that in these days the heavens declare the glories of Kepler and Newton. God is barred and bolted from his universe, hurled from his throne, and man would fain encircle his brow with the diadem of the omnipotent one. Perilous times indeed. Let us glance at a threefold description of these times of peril. First, from 2 Timothy 4:3, we learn that they are times of heaped teachers. Next, from James 5:3, times of heaped treasures. And lastly, from Romans 2:5, times of heaped wrath. It is not necessary to point out that the heaped teachers teach not concerning the heaped wrath. They are too optimistic to deal with such matters. Neither is it necessary to point out that the heaped treasures redeem not from the wrath piled up. But what of Paul's attitude towards this state of things? What manner of conduct did he enjoin upon the servants of God? 3 words contain the answer. Preach the word. Is there injustice abroad? Preach the word. Is righteousness bleeding in the dust and wrong triumphant on the throne? Preach the word. Those who preach the word today are the real apostolic succession. The sword of the Spirit is the only weapon which Paul can commend to the Christian warrior. Hence, in his letter to Timothy, he puts a threefold emphasis upon the word. The word inspired, 2 Timothy 3:16, 17. The word divided, 2 Timothy 2:15. The word preached, 2 Timothy 4:2. But let the reader know that it is to be preached, not only because it is inspired, but because it is divided. Not only because it is authoritative, but because it is understood. While the world then is delving deep into the treasures of nature, let the church explore the boundless treasures of grace. While the world hastes on to its treasures of wrath, let those called out of its corruption enter into the present enjoyment of the riches of his grace and glory untold. If we have noted Paul's pessimism and pointed out his method, we cannot close without referring to his experience. In him we see the result of being severely scriptural. The path of faithfulness trotted by Paul was by no means a path of roses. It was a path of suffering, 2 Timothy 1:12. A path of imprisonment, 2 Timothy 2:9. A path of persecution, 2 Timothy 3:11, a path of an abandonment, 2 Timothy 4:10, 16, a path to the lions, 2 Timothy 4:17. If you would be successful, preach anything that gets the people. If you would be faithful, preach the word. But the path of faithfulness leads not to the court of human favor. Yeah. Yep. Yes. That's actually really good. I'm going to read that twice. If you would be successful, preach anything that gets the people. If you would be faithful, preach the word. But the path of faithfulness leads not to the court of human favor. Wow. The Micaiahs are smitten and mocked, sneered at and ridiculed. The Enochs know not companionship, save they find it in their God. The Pauls are deserted and hide away to make sport before the godless mob. The Johns have Patmos isles for their abodes. But God is no man's debtor. The Patmos, which the persecutors of the apostle deemed to be barren rock, proves to be a stepping stone to the vision of coming glories. If Paul must say, "No man stood with me," yet grace insists on interposing a "nevertheless, the Lord stood with me," who would not sacrifice the tinsel of earth to gain the gold of heaven? Who would not exchange the favor of mortal man for the fellowship of the eternal God? Mere harmony of sound can never take the mere harmony of sound can never take the place of spiritual melody from sin-purged hearts. The viol and the harp may please the ear but cannot bring peace to a sin-burdened soul. The only melody that can break the fetters of sin is the sweet sound of Jesus' name. Let us then plead for pessimists to take the field against the forces of human optimism. Pessimists who will not have one single good thing to say of the natural man. Pessimists who, Paul-like, will own to having no confidence in the flesh. Pessimists who can see but one place for the old Adam nature, and that place the cross of Calvary, and who will gladly acknowledge that in us, that is to say, our flesh, dwelleth no good thing. Perilous times. Preach the word. Wow. That one was also a very strong one. Very good. I like that. Preach the word. And this is really good. I think that's probably my favorite thing in the article. One of my favorite things. This one was another one too, another good one. Yep, I feel you, body. I am with you. And it looks like Stephen is back.
What are we gonna do?
Preach the word.
What are we gonna do?
And forever. All right. Thank you so much for listening, body. It's been a pleasure. I am your host, Stained Soul, and this is now Stained Steven here too. And we will be checking out. Have a good one. Thank you. Grace and peace.